in the last sort of few days and weeks, there's been a little bit of information circulating rather around the Call of Duty that's going to come out in 2019, obviously made by Infinity Ward, and what it will be. And I thought this is actually quite an interesting thing to look at, even though we've only just started 2018. World War II's only been out for what, 2-3 months, and we've still got a new Call of Duty coming out from Treyarch in 2018. However, where that's quite clear in terms of what it will be, there seems to be a lot of evidence to support the fact it will be Black Ops 4, and you won't be shocked to be Black Ops 4. The only real debate is when it will be set, whether it be like Cold War or modern day, or where future, whenever it's going to be. That's the only real debate you can really have with it, or the only real sort of speculation you can create surrounding the next one. So looking ahead to 2019 is something we might as well do, simply because there's so many more questions, so many more sort of possibilities and directions that Call of Duty could be taken in. Obviously it'll be made by Infinity Ward, who haven't had the best of time in the last sort of few years, have they? They've obviously, Modern Warfare 3 came out and they had a lot of issues with it in terms of getting the game out. Sledgehammer had to come in and help fix like half of it. However, it was still a very good game, but the way it was made was quite tedious. From that point, they pretty much a whole new studio, loads of new people working there and all that. Ghost comes out, and I mean, recently I've seen more people suggesting Ghost is actually an alright game. I'm never going to buy into that. Ghost for me, even with all the jetpack ones, excuse me, and all the like crap that was in Advanced Warfare and things like that, and Infinite Warfare, I still maintain that Ghosts is possibly the worst Call of Duty that's ever been made. I hated it. Found the campaign boring. Didn't get into it at all. I didn't get like the characters at all, and that really hurt, because Modern Warfare series I loved, and as far as I was aware, these were the same people making it at the time. I wasn't particularly aware of everything that's gone down at that moment, so I was really disappointed with that. And then the multiplayer I really didn't like. There wasn't one map there that, what's it called, Strike Zone, I think it was Strike Zone. It was the only map I can even say in that game that was even half decent. I didn't like the fact, the way it worked, the way it ran, in terms of, one of my main problems with it were, getting, basically every gun was a laser gun, and it was just constant death. I remember that being specifically something that I hated, and I just didn't like it. I did not get into it at all. And then obviously you have their next game, Infinite Warfare, which was the peak of hatred towards the whole franchise, really. No one, well, not no one, still has a few people, I suppose, but there was downright hatred, and we all obviously remember the trailer for it getting absolutely dislike bombed, which was quite amusing. However, where do they go now? That's the problem. One thing I will give Infinite Warfare, the campaign was brilliant. Well, brilliant. Yeah, well, okay, I'll stick with that. I really enjoyed the campaign. It was well done. It was well presented. The missions were good. The characters were good. However, the rest of the game massively lets it down, and that's an understatement. And obviously, one major thing that did help Infinite Warfare do slightly better than what it could have done was the addition of Modern Warfare Remastered, which we're seeing now. And I just had to say, first game I went back on it to get this, Shipment Domination was the first game that popped up, and I was just so happy. I mean, Domination specifically on Shipment is mental. Probably some of the most fun I've ever had playing anything. But anyway, we had Modern Warfare Remastered, and that really helped it. And that led people to think, well, there's a whole trilogy. There was a whole trilogy of Modern Warfare, and they've only remastered one of them. Surely, just based on progression and continuity, maybe the rest of them will. And there's been a bit of talk recently that Modern Warfare 2 will possibly be remastered. And for me, Modern Warfare 2 was my first Call of Duty that I personally owned, and it was easily one of the games. What am I saying? It's easily one of the best games ever for me personally in my life because of how much I played it, how much I loved it, and the fact it introduced me to Call of Duty, and it started the enjoyment I had from it, and it's the reason why even today, through all the crap ones, I still kind of love Call of Duty. So having Modern Warfare 2 remastered off the bat of that, you'd think, oh my god, that would be unbelievable. My life would go. I might have another game other than Fortnite for, this is a long way in the future. Fortnite might not even be a thing then, you never know. But the idea of having Modern Warfare 2 remastered is just something that instantly I just kind of think, oh my god. And I mean, would this be a thing? I didn't think, honestly, after Modern Warfare Remastered and sort of when there was talk about it, obviously people start saying, oh, I want this one remastered, I want that one. I honestly didn't think there'd ever be another remaster. Simply because I think Modern Warfare Remastered was planned for a very, very specific reason. The test, or at least the sort of dislike of the exosuits and the jumping and all that, was quite clear from the off, even with Advanced Warfare. I suppose people were willing to try it, but Advanced Warfare wasn't particularly a good game. No matter, Kevin Spacey, who at the time had a good reputation, obviously gone a bit down the toilet, and it just, from that moment on, straight away, pretty much, it was quite clear that people weren't, selling to these. They weren't liking it. So I imagine quite early on in the process, Activision were like, okay, we need a remaster here. We need Modern Warfare Remastered, or we need a game that was so loved. And I imagine it was just got, to the point where they knew, okay, we're making 3 games that are exo based, they're futuristic, and they're all jump jetpack shit, and they need something that will help, sell them and help keep some good reputation. Not that Activision are particularly experts in good reputation, but still, it's better than nothing. So I honestly thought this was planned quite early on. They were like, Raven, who made the game, Raven Software, if you weren't clear on that, go and make Modern Warfare Remastered, and we'll put it with the next Infinity War game, and that way we might not get such a shitstorm. Obviously, they still got quite a massive shitstorm with Infinite Warfare, but it did work to a degree. And now, getting back to the point, the reason why I didn't think they'd have another remaster is because I didn't think they'd necessarily need one. I think they would be confident enough that as soon as we get the hype back from Boots on the Ground, they had World War 2 obviously, which got everyone excited when it was first announced. Not so much now, but I still maintain World War 2 is a good game. And from this point, next game you've got Treyarch, who aren't going to have a problem selling copies. I think Black Ops 3 was definitely the most liked in the futuristic era, simply because the multiplayer actually wasn't awful. They had zombies, obviously they had the true incarnation of zombies, the proper zombies, not all this, the new ones. And they're trusted, they're so trusted. People love the Black Ops series, hence why I think Black Ops 4, can sell on its own easily. There's no question there's not going to be a remaster this year, in my head anyway. There's no question about it at all. But with Infinity Wars, it actually does make sense to possibly have a remaster, simply because as a company, as a developer, they've definitely got the least trust. Some might argue Sledgehammer do, but they definitely have the least trust at the moment, I imagine, from having Infinite Warfare and Ghosts, their last 2 games, both of which were not well received in any way whatsoever. No matter what their next game is, they may be an argument to suggest they might need a remaster just to either boost it up, or even if they, because we'll talk about that in a minute, Modern Warfare 4's been touted around as a possibility. And you'd think even if they made a Modern Warfare 4, that would sell it alone, but they might be thinking we need to get our reputation back to where it was. And by having not only a new Modern Warfare, but having Modern Warfare 2, a game many consider their favourite, in a bundle with it, that might just appeal to them and get back to being so highly thought of that, like they were before, all the shit happened. So I'm starting to think it was possibly going to happen, this remaster. I'm certainly getting to the point where I'm thinking maybe it will, maybe it actually will, and that will be bloody awesome. I'm not going to dispute. However, I am going to play devil's advocate with myself here, and just give a few points as to maybe why this whole Modern Warfare 2 Remastered thing wouldn't be a good idea. For one thing, it does take, well, I say for one thing, it pretty much is the only thing I can think of. I'm very biased to the thought of Modern Warfare 2 being remastered. I really want it. However, I do think on the other side of the argument, it would definitely take away from the other game. No matter how good the new game will be, it could be brilliant, it will still be slightly impacted by Modern Warfare 2 Remastered. Simply because so many people love Modern Warfare 2 and so many people will want to play that more. Maybe not more, but they will want to play it, and it will hinder, it will be a bit of an impact on the actual game. They obviously want the real game to be played a lot, not selling. In terms of getting it sold, it probably won't be an issue if the game looks good to people, and then you've got Modern Warfare 2 Remastered thrown in, so selling's not the issue, it's just keeping player numbers up on the new game. Because people, again, they're splitting their audience, and for Infinite Warfare that wasn't as much of an issue because they knew people weren't responding to Infinite Warfare all that well, so they understood that people were going to go on COD 4. There's probably a lot more people on COD 4 when the games came out. It wouldn't shock me. However, with this situation, they're going to want to push the new game. They're going to want the new game to do well, and maybe having a remaster might impact that. However, ultimately, as I said, I was just playing devil's advocate. It's always good to get both sides. There's always another side to an argument, and that is pretty much it for being against the Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, as far as I can see anyway. Some people might straight up have just not liked it, so they're probably thinking this is a stupid idea. But for me overall, I would love a Modern Warfare 2 Remaster, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't hope it would happen at some point. Like I say, this time last year I was pretty set in the understanding that there wouldn't be another remaster, simply because I thought this was a one-off just to end the bad spell they've been having with all the jetpacks, to keep people interested before going back to their roots with World War 2 and then whatever Treyarch do, and then obviously Infinity Ward. But that pretty much wraps up the Modern Warfare 2 section of this, because there's been talk about not only that but about the actual game itself. I've been starting to see some people getting a bit interested in speculating. Again, like I said, people sort of assume now that Treyarch can make a Black Ops 4, so you might as well skip 1 year ahead and start thinking about Infinity Ward's game, because there's a lot of ways that can go. Obviously the first one is a Modern Warfare game, the first one that I would like to, probably the one I would most want to see, as I've just said. Talking about the remasters, both COD 4 and possible Modern Warfare 2, I loved Modern Warfare as a series. The campaign throughout I thought was brilliant in each one of them, and I really hope, for my sake, that they revisit it, and honestly for their sake as well. I think generally Infinity Ward need good publicity, something that could be offered by Modern Warfare 2 Remastered obviously, but they need their next game to be good. They really do need it to be good. They need to be well received straight away from the moment the first trailer comes out, and then throughout the year that it's out they want people to be into it right up until the next Call of Duty. And for them to be able to do that, I think the best way is literally to sort of milk their most successful series. Obviously there's multiple ways they could do it. I've been titling it Modern Warfare 4, but it might not be a Modern Warfare 4. That's just sort of a placeholder name, really. Makes most sense, don't it? It could be a Modern Warfare 4, could be a direct sequel, it could be a prequel, could look at something in between, COD 4 and Modern Warfare 2, it could look in between Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3, or it could just be a new story in that world whenever. It could even be concurrent, why not? Obviously there are arguments against this. Again, playing devil's advocate, it's not the same team. As I mentioned, the team from Modern Warfare 3 was ripped apart and now it's completely new people. They may not want to take it on because it's not theirs, or it just they may not think they can. I don't know, or it just may not turn out as good. It may be poor. It might be a poor attempt at going into the world that so many people love. As well as that, you know, where do they go? If it is going to be a direct sequel, where do they go? For me, there are possibilities there. Captain Price is alive at the end of Modern Warfare 3. So there's areas to go, but for the most part it would have to be a completely new story. They could, you know, just link it. And by link it, I mean actually link it, not the Black Ops 3, oh, we'll mention one thing from Black Ops 2. That'll do. Sort of link, I mean an actual link to it. Could, again, prequels, a good bet. However, I do think generally, there's pros and cons. Modern Warfare 4 or a Modern Warfare game is their best bet. Because like I say, they really need to get people on side. Infinity Ward out of all of them, definitely the ones people trust the least, and they would want to get back to around Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3, the era when they were considered the big boys and people preferred them to Treyarch, and now it's completely switched. Another thing they could do, there's been people, certainly recently I've started seeing it more, people sort of bigging up Ghosts a little bit, certainly compared to when the game was out. I've seen YouTube videos of people going back to it thinking, oh, let's try this again, maybe it's not so bad. I haven't done that, I must say, and I'm still very much in the camp that I bloody hate that game and I don't want to touch it ever again. So for me, the idea of a Ghost 2 is fairly underwhelming. However, there are clear arguments there. Some people do like the game. Not only that, it was a story by the newer team, the team that will replace, you know, the Modern Warfare people, and there was a link at the end. There was a cliffhanger at the end. But some people really want to know what happened. Some people generally care for that. I personally didn't give a shite, simply because I didn't care. I really did not care. I didn't like the campaign. I didn't like the characters, as I've already mentioned. But people do genuinely want it, and there is somewhere to go. And I could rant about it all I want. I probably will still buy it anyway. So, from that point of view, they're probably fine. If they have a Modern Warfare 2 remaster, I'll certainly buy it. That would be enough. That would be enough. So maybe they will do that. Now I think about it off the top of my head, that's not actually a bad idea from them. Because I imagine they might be aware of Ghosts not being the most popular game ever. Just put a Modern Warfare 2 remaster in. Oh, there you go. See? They should hire me. I'm genius. Anyway, other than that, the only real other direction is a completely new game, a completely new slate. Probably will. I just have a hunch it will be modern. It will be present day, and yeah, they could just generally create something new, and that wouldn't be a bad thing. Because as much as they did that with Ghosts, and I hated it, Infinite Warfare's campaign was generally a really good campaign. It was really well done, and that was a new slate. That was just completely new. And they could probably do that again in a modern day, and I would trust them to be able to do it. So that's realistically their options, you know, Modern Warfare, Ghosts, or just completely new. As I said, for me, I think Modern Warfare is the best bet for them. However, if they're doing Modern Warfare, I think it's less likely that Modern Warfare 2 remaster will come out, but they might do both. Again, simply to try and get as much popularity back, essentially, as they can. Other than that, if it's not going to be that, a new slate, and I'd at least want a Ghosts game. At least want a Ghost sequel, because like I say, I really couldn't care for it. What would you want? What would you guys want? Would you want Modern Warfare as well? Would you want Modern Warfare 2 remastered? Do you like the idea of having remasters with other games, or do you think it's kind of unnecessary and unneeded? If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe, share it around, that would be much appreciated. I'll be doing more things like this. I'll be doing more live comms as well in the future, probably off Modern Warfare Remastered, because I've got back into it now. Anyway, that pretty much wraps us up, so see ya.